So Shawn Porter recently said on the Porter Way podcast that he thought that Jaron Ennis was overrated. This is quite surprising considering this is somebody who before said that Boots was, and I quote, the welterweight Roy Jones Jr. So before I really get into this, so this is what he had to say.
Boots is overrated, and this is why I say he's overrated. Crazy. Everybody is so hyped up on him, but he hasn't been in the ring with any world champions yet.
Well, that's how it goes, Sean.
Huh?
That's how it goes. They got hyped about you guys before you got
true.
That's boxing.
But I feel like it's
That's how you build your fighter.
And don't forget that I'm the one that said that, or one of the ones that said this dude is the closest thing we got to Roy Jones. I've said that. I'm on record. I believe that, but at the same time, because every name that you throw out and Boots is smashing, Boots is smashing. Right. Damn, like let the fight happen.
All right, so that's what he had to say, and to be fair, there is some. I mean, there's a lot of truth in what he actually said. To be fair, so I think his overall point was so, with boxing and with younger fighters, there's always a narrative, especially when they're on the come up, that this guy is gonna be the one to smash everybody. It happened with Errol Spence, I remember. Errol Spence is my favorite fighter, but everybody when he was on the come, everybody was saying that he's going to be a problem for every damn welterweight there is. When before he fought Kell Brook, before he was on the way to the belt, he called himself the boogeyman of the division, and he was. Nobody wanted to fight Spence. Now he's the champion. Now he's got almost all the belts. He beats Ugas. He has literally all but one. But now suddenly everybody likes to think that he's this weird guy who is afraid of to fight Terence Crawford, and narrative switch in boxing. And but with Boots, I get what he's saying. I think Shawn Porter is somewhat, I get it, because like he said there, he have to let the fights happen. He's not, the hype behind Boots is everybody saying all this stuff about him before he's really fought any world champions. And if you actually look at his record, he's 28-0. And just to put that into perspective, Errol Spence is 27-0. So he's got a lot of fights under his belt already, Boots, and he's only 24. And a lot of these guys, he hasn't really fought, but Lipinets was a good one, and Delorme was some decent ones. Lipinets was the one, to me, that stood out. Talking about a guy who took Mikey Garcia all 12, and Boots just made him look like he didn't even belong in there. And Boots actually responded twice to this. So first, this is what he had to say, where he did an interview with YSM Sports Media.
I don't know what's going on. Maybe Crawford punched him a little too hard, and he lost some brain cells. So I don't know what's going on. But how you gonna say that? And when he was one of the main people joining me and telling me that, I'm ready, and he's too much for these guys. Now you want to back on your word. You was the main person saying it a couple months ago. Now you want to change your mind, but that's on him. I don't know. It's a little publicity stunt or trying to get his podcast up or something, but it is what it is, man. If you really think I'm overrated, like I said, he can come out of retirement and fight me. And I've been calling him out for years now. I've been calling him out, Crawford, Errol Spence, everybody. I'm trying to fight these top guys. Everybody know that.
So that's what Boots had to say. He really did not take the comments well. He also said something on Twitter. If I can find the tweet, he kind of pretty much said the same thing that he said there about how he's overrated, but Porter didn't want to fight him, and he says if I'm so overrated, come out of retirement and fight me. And he says now people, his last sort of word on the tweet was, now people retire and I'm overrated, which I think kind of insinuates that he's kind of trying to say I think Porter respected him when he was active, Porter when he's fighting, but he didn't want to fight him. Now that he's retired, now he's kind of behind the desk, he can now he's coming out saying he's overrated, not that good. But in fairness, what Porter was saying wasn't completely incorrect. But I really want to sort of think about this, because the welterweight division in boxing is not my favourite, but it's probably up there. My favourite is lightweight, but after that I would say it's welterweight. So many good fighters in there, and Boots, to me, if you just talk about pure ability, he is the best out of all of them, but he hasn't shown it yet. And that is the main thing. And one thing that I want to get into, if you look at, he also did an interview with Shawn Porter with Fight Hub TV, where he kind of had to sort of not double down on the comments, but I don't know how to describe it. He doubled down. That's probably a good way to say it. And when in the interview, he kind of talked about he's been very complimentary of Boots, but he feels like it's just so much. He basically came out and said that, you know, everybody's saying that he'll wash Spence and wash Crawford and wash all these other guys and wash Ugas, and you know, just let the fights happen, let it see, like he said. And I agree with this. I think Boots is I don't like to use the word generational, but I think he is. The way this guy fights, he is. People talk about Crawford being a switch hit, but Boots really is so smooth. We're going back and forth. He's got power in his hands. He's got great IQ. He's explosive, athletic. Got great footwork. He's good. I mean, I'm yet to see his defense really tested, but he's beating everybody. And at 28-0, he's pretty much his next two fights, I would wager one of them is going to be for a world title. I'd hope anyway, because if you look at the rankings, he is, and I had it here before, number 2 in WBL. Virgil Ortiz Jr. is number 1. He's number 3 in the IBF, and the 2, I looked it up for some reason, 2 of the spots are vacant. He's number 3 in the WBC with Avanesian and Ortiz above him. And in the WBA, he's number 3. So he's there, up there, amongst the best at welterweight. And, you know, I personally, so in terms of for what I want to happen with Ennis, I would love to see him against a Danny Garcia or a Keith Thurman for his next fight. Obviously, Thurman seems to be going for he wants Spence or he wants Crawford. He seems to want one of the bigger guys after he beat Barrios. But yeah, I think that what Porter said about him being overrated, I don't think he's not saying I don't think that he's not as good as everybody thinks. I think he is, but sometimes, again, it goes a bit too far with these sort of things. It's a little bit similar like what I said about Anthony Joshua and Usyk, where sometimes with narratives in boxing, this narratives in general, to be fair, you can go too far with it. You know, people looked at Anthony Joshua as this guy initially after he beat Klitschko, the future the heavyweight division, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. He loses to Ruiz, loses to Usyk, and now he's overrated, he's not as good. It goes to one extreme to the other. There's something about boxing that does that. Maybe it's all sport, to be honest. I don't know. But it's more so, I find, in boxing that happens when there's two extremes. You know, I was going to say the same about Deontay Wilder, but Deontay Wilder was always kind of seen as a guy who was just the right hand. But people were saying he's explosive, he hits you, you don't test Fury, he can't handle the thing. And then he lost, and everybody said, oh, he can't fight, he's overrated, he's not this and that. But my point is, Jaron Ennis is an elite talent, but I think people are getting a little bit carried away, saying he's going to wash Spence, going to wash Crawford. There's, what's this? Damian Lillard has been very complimentary of Boots Ennis, but there's one guy, and I forget his name, who really has been pushing this hype train for Ennis, and it's coming to me. I have the video of it if I can find it. Right here. Right. It's either Gilly or Gilly the Kid has been fully pushing this Ennis hype train for a while. And this is what I actually think, what I think he means, Porter, when he listens to stuff like this. So let me see if I can find it. Here we go. So let me get the thing.
Who's the best young fighter out right now? You gotta limit it to one right now. Before you get out of here. The best young fighter right now. You gotta limit to one. No, you gotta limit it to one.
You got one.
I'm gonna say Jaron Boots Ennis.
Boots.
I'm gonna say he's the best young fighter out right now, and I'm gonna say if he fought any of the top welterweights right now, he'll whitewash all of them. Exclude Danny Garcia from from Philly.
I'm not mad at you saying he the best young fighter. Like, I think that's very much possible. He ain't watching every 147.
Yes,
Will
he will.
Could
He
he
will
beat? Could he
whitewash.
possibly beat every 147?
No, he'll whitewash.
That's fair. I can't agree with that.
Easy work.
See, that kind of stuff there, I think, is what Shawn Porter's talking about. When people go so far to say it's easy work, actually. There's certain American fighters who have these hype men with them. Devin Haney's got that one guy with him who, I don't know what his name is, but he's always chatting all that. To say that he would easily brush aside Spence and Crawford, Ugas, that's just foolishness talking to me. I mean, he might do, but you can't say that with for sure. Because as good as he is, he has never been in there with the competition that Spence has. He's fought, he's more experienced than I think people actually realise, Ennis, but he hasn't got the experience of a Crawford, and it's hard to say that he beat them both easy. It's just not happening, in my opinion. If you threw him those two now, I think he would lose. But give it a year, or maybe give it when those two fought each other, and which I hope anyway would be this year, because Spence is fighting Ugas in April. He's got another whole year. Crawford isn't scheduled to fight anyone, so I think I could see that fight happening this year. Hopefully, anyway. After that, then maybe, and if you get Venice, maybe a Danny Garcia or a Thurman or just somebody like that. You know, even one of Kell Brook or Amir Khan, that will never happen. Brook Khan won't take the fight against Ennis, in my opinion, but if they did, that would still be a good test. But because, you know, Brook, former world champion, Khan, former world champion, two experienced guys, it'd be great. But I don't think, like I said, they ain't going to take that fight. There's literally nothing to gain for either of them by fighting Boots. You know, maybe a fight with Virgil Ortiz, I say maybe, that's a fight that definitely should happen. And I think they both would want that to happen, but who knows, maybe the timing's not right for them yet. And yeah, I think Boots is good, but I feel like they need to relax a little bit. You need to kind of let him properly mature. I understand why he's annoyed, because the term overrated, it's sometimes people almost get that mixed up with saying somebody's bad. Doesn't mean they're bad, you know. I think as good as he is, I think Tank Davis is overrated. I don't think he's a bad fighter at all. I think he is as good as you get, but I just don't think he's on the level that people make him out to be. I think Tyson Fury is overrated. As again, best heavyweight clearly, but you know, even then I say clearly, I don't know if I have much confidence to say that he would 100% beat Usyk. I think he beat Joshua, but there's no confidence there. Because, you know, as good as Fury is, he's shown some vulnerabilities in the past. You know, I think... Who else would I say is overrated? Can't really say... I was going to say Saunders at one point I felt was overrated, but I don't know if I can say... He was rated, but he was never, rated that highly in comparison to how Boots Ennis has been rated, to be honest. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see what happens with Boots. I think this is a special fight. I really do think it, but just let him develop, man. Just let him... He's developing at a very fast pace, and he's 28 fights in his career. He's developing a hell of a lot quicker than, or maybe a lot more along the line than people may realise. But I just think that just calm down on him is what I'm saying. A great fighter, though. I'd love to see him fight Spence, Crawford, all of these guys. I think next, I said Keith Thurman. It won't happen. I'd love to see him against Danny Garcia. You can put that in Philly, and I think it would sell out. Both Philly fighters, unless they have that thing where they don't want to fight each other, but I think they would want to fight each other. And you know, if you look at this division as well, welterweight, Virgil Ortiz is coming up, Conor Benn is on the rise. There's a lot of good fights to be had in that division. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on this whole Shawn Porter and Jaron Boots Ennis situation. If I was Boots, I wouldn't take it to heart too much, because one, he said something about his podcast there actually in the sort of response, Boots, where that he maybe wants to get his podcast up more. I agree with that. No, I don't agree with that. I get what he's saying, because when fighters retire, or if you have a podcast, this tends to happen with a lot of fighters actually. It's happened switching sports here, but it happened with Misha Tate, where she said that Khabib should shut up about his comments, and people kind of, again, she had the podcast, you know. Fighters have a lot. It's great seeing these fighters make podcasts, because seeing their insight is so interesting, but sometimes they do say stuff that will be a bit out there, and it will be just to sell the podcast. Because to say, again, it was very much a flip on what Porter has been saying recently, but I do understand what he means. I think, like I said, patience with Boots. But yeah, just my thoughts. For those who haven't actually watched, don't subscribe to or watched Porter's podcast, The Porter Way. I think he did it, I don't know when he started it, but it is a really good podcast. Shawn Porter is genuinely one of the most knowledgeable, I think, fighters in boxing, to be honest. He was like that when he was a fighter. Now he's retired. I think it's good to see him still continue to speak about boxing. So yeah, interesting situation. I'm all for people don't like it, but I love this old fighter versus the new beef. We had Errol Spence and Tim Bradley. We had Anthony Joshua and Alex Lewis, and now we've got Jaron Ennis and Shawn Porter. So yeah, be interesting. And yeah, my next video, like I said before, it was supposed to be this one, but I decided to switch it around. Amir Khan, Kell Brook, a timeline of what happened with them.